Good afternoon. My name is Gavin James Dean. That means absolutely nothing to any of you. I could be Garion Reeves, I could be Victor Hemingway, or I could be Ursula Valjean, although the last one you might be considering, he doesn't look French. But that leads me to the question, what is in a name? What does a name mean? If I was in medieval England, they would be giving me one name only. That name would be used for taxation, that name would be used for censuses, things of that nature. But if there was two people of the same name in the same area, they'd be given a second name, a suffix to that first, a last name. So there was another person named Gavin, and given that Gavin's an English name, it would probably make sense there would be. They might be, and if maybe they live by trees, apples, they might be called Gavin Appleby, apple pie. I think I'd probably be called Gavin the Nerd. Another way medieval Europe would name people is based off their occupation. If someone made barrels, they might be called John Cooper. If someone fashioned metal, they might be called John Smith. If they were German and they fashioned metal, they'd be probably called Johann Schmidt. But this all leads me to question exactly what did John Lee Hooker's ancestors used to do? By Jewish tradition, if a child is born, the father would go to the synagogue on that day and pray for the health and vitality of that child. If it was a girl, they'd be named right then and there. If it was a boy, they'd be waiting 8 days for the circumcision. Then they would name them. Generally, a Jewish name is a family name of someone who is deceased, and they would be taken from that person and given to the child. This tradition is also true of a lot of Europe. I myself am named after a relative on my father's side. But the most common tradition is to be taken from the maternal grandfather. And to be honest, I think that's theft. To be taking it from one person and giving it to another. In Asian countries, you might be asking, how do they name their children? And it's a little bit different, and it's just completely reversed. You put the family name first and the given name second, Yao Ming. Yao is the family name, it's the same as his father's first, and Ming is the given one. But I find all these names to be lacking. They give no idea as to who that person is, what they believe, what they want. Pen names can sort of get around this. According to Roger Williams' book Sidetracks, Voltaire is a pen name. Voltaire is the pen name for Francois-Marie Arouet. How he got that is it's an anagram of the Latinized version of his family name. But beyond that, in French, it can very often suggest a quick, biting wit, which is exactly what Voltaire had. But still, pen names, they still cannot describe a person completely. Buddhism gets around this quite completely. Let me ask, has anyone heard of the name Siddhartha Gautama? I see one head nodding. Beyond that, has anyone heard of the name Buddha? Yeah, pretty much everybody. They're the exact same person. Siddhartha Gautama was the given name to the Buddha. But upon his sitting at the Bodhi tree, where he gained enlightenment, he renamed himself. And it's not a pseudonym. Pseudonym means false name. It's a real name, meaning enlightened one, awakened one. And through Buddhist tradition, this has traveled very far and wide. Nichiren, the founder of the Buddhist school which I follow, was given one name at his birth. I cannot pronounce it. Was given another name when he entered the seminary. I cannot pronounce that either. But his name is Nichiren, which means sun lotus. And after his death, he was given another name, Daishonin, at the end. Great sun lotus, great teacher. If I was to follow the same tradition, I would name myself Victor Pro Pentus Ego, meaning victory for the inner self. But I would not do this, because the traditions of our culture say no. In our culture, it is not the person whose name describes them, it is the person who makes that name describe them. Each person, when they're naming their child, will think, well, what does that name mean to me? Have I met someone with that same name? It's completely subjective. And so therefore, it is my job to stand in front of any one of you and make you think that is exactly what or who a Gavin James Dean is supposed to be. Thank you.
Talk to him. What do you think about his presentation?
It was very, very fast. Like just like the way that the words, like the speech was long, but like the way you spoke, it was fast.
All right.
Very informational.
It had lots of interesting parts.
I like how
didn't
you
it?
didn't use any note cards or anything. That was props.
Thank you.
You want to slow it down.
Okay.
Yeah. You want, and give your audience a little time to keep up with you. It's like mentioning an acronym and not translating it, to run right past Nichigen and not give a little time for, you're telling us a lot of things about yourself when you're talking about Buddhism and your attitudes about names, and it takes time to embed. So I think if you look at the tape that Molly's made, you'll see that although there are lots of nice pieces, they would all do better to be elongated, to let some pace, let a little, you know, the audience is usually grateful for a little time to think, right? So, especially when you're talking about big ideas, but full of nice ideas. I like the whole business about picture propensity, but that was quite good. Now, let me ask you this, Gavin. If there was two people, does that sound right to you?
Oh, it's where, isn't it?
It's word. So he made a grammatical error when he said that if there was two people. My point to all of you is you don't want to be making grammatical errors. You want to fix them before you speak, because what? It undermines your credibility again, right? So, but I mean, we all make them, so you want to look for them. Thanks. Very nice.